why the fantasy feels dangerous is what I want to go into next. And what I see over and over again isn't just fear or rejection, like we saw this guy, right? It is fear of redefinition, fear of what I would be seen as if I did show up my full self with these dark fantasies. The question underneath almost everything is, how would you see me if you really knew me? That's a lot of men are grappling with that. Who come to see me, a lot of them are grappling with that. And a lot of men do see adult professionals. It's a big chunk. I don't care what any guy says. They say, "Oh, I don't, pay for OnlyFans and I don't do this." You either follow someone on a burner account. Let's be honest. You follow someone on a burner account, or you don't follow them and you keep checking their page. Some IG model or OF woman. You're on those campsites, not logged in, and you're not paying tokens. You're watching adult content. You're doing something. I don't buy it. Y'all mean sometimes I'm just going on my rant. Sometimes there are men who straight up lie to women. They are not involved in any sort of adult work in terms of purchasing, and they're lying to you. There's too many men on these websites for them not to be lying. They're lying. So what I'm saying is this: a lot of them are. There's a good chunk of them. They are having these thoughts. They are hiding desires that they will never say out loud, even to the ones who they love. It's a good chunk. Why? How do I know this? Is because they're on here with me and not telling their partners, right? So psychologically, identity threat is one of the strongest reasons people keep parts of themselves hidden. And when telling the truth risks changing how your partner looks at you, it changes how your neighbors look at you, it changes your whole world, how you look at yourself, because you're admitting out loud that, hey, I'm into these dark fantasies, even though that's not me, or it could be me, either or, right? It can either be a fantasy or it can be truth. Acknowledging that truth of how the world will respond to you are the reasons why people keep parts of themselves hidden, especially men. When telling the truth, it risks changing how someone is respected, how someone is loved or understood. Silence feels safer. Let me tell you something. If I, which I would never share the personal information of my clients. If you all knew like what these men were up to, it would change your perspective. And they know it, right? They know it. But I think that says a lot about the world too, is that why do we see people differently because of other parts of themselves they don't show out loud or they're not honest with? That's why people don't feel honest about sharing. And I'm not justifying it, just to let you know. I'm just giving you the reasons why a lot of these dudes are not just being honest. It's their ego. A lot of men have big egos. They don't want it to be torn down. So they would rather lie than to have their ego on the line, have their reputation on the line. The fear sits underneath a lot of secrecy, and I see it all the time. I see them in private conversations versus publicly in their public identities. And this is where things get really, really interesting, is where people don't talk enough about what I'm going to do it, because I always do it on Spicy Spectrum. What men confess privately versus what they present publicly are often very two different things. There are a lot of men, which I'm going to explain in a different podcast episode, who will say they don't want certain things, right? Notice how you see, for example, a politician or a pastor, right, who's preaching against homosexuality. Months down the line, weeks down the line, they get caught with another man. Like, they get caught doing exactly giving women on OnlyFans a bunch of money, including ones I know. I'm just being honest. Like they say things publicly, do another. There are men who will say, "Oh, I don't like women who are sexual, who are open about their sexuality." Yes, they do. Yes, they do. And that goes back to the ego that I was talking about, how a lot of men, they do things for their ego, but not only that, they do it for their image. They do it because other men support what they're doing. If other men didn't have any quote unquote say so of what other men did, they would do whatever they want, but they care about what other men think. And they care about what you think as well. Where they lie. They're lying about their desires, going behind closed doors. It all goes back to ego and how they're viewed. But deep down, it's not just that. A lot of these men want to be wanted differently than what is taught to them. A lot of men want the permission to exist in a certain role or dynamic without their image being tampered with, right? Or you seeing them differently now that they've opened up about what they want. They want parts of themselves to exist somewhere without carrying it into their everyday life. There is no other place for it to exist for a lot of men in their heads as well. So they come to places like adult sites for parts of them to exist here and stay there. Fantasy isn't always about acting something out. Fantasy is about giving language to something that has no safe place to live. And a lot of these guys hold their fantasies in the adult world, and you may not. And you know, this isn't like geared toward like partnered women. I'm talking to you as in terms of society. When I say this, is that there are a lot of people who don't understand the adult industry, and you don't understand that people have thoughts, people have desires, people have things they do not feel comfortable saying out loud, and they need outlets. Period. And I've always said that if someone doesn't have an outlet, you become the outlet. And I'm not sure we want to figure that out. And I'm just being honest. So, but yes, they need a safe place to land when it comes to sharing what's going on deep inside.